And we are live. If you guys could let us know if we're looking good and sounding fine in the chat, please do so. Welcome to another episode of Camera and Flask. This is episode number 3. Every single Wednesday, we're doing this at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'd love if you guys would join us. We have a couple people that do this regularly. This is on Jem Schofield's channel. There he is with a lovely background. It's got some really fun toys back there, it looks like. Jem Schofield with the C47. How you doing, man?
I am doing very well. I am very tired, Mr. Caleb Pike. I have been here in New York. I'm in Koreatown on the 4th floor of a building in a ginormous studio, 5,000 square foot studio where I've just finished day 1 of 2 days of workshops here. Oof. And today's subject was lighting, so hence all the lights. There you go.
Right on. And no episode is the same without Sir Ben Barden. Ben, what's going on, brother?
Thank you for knighting me. Good. I'm at home in the Czech Republic this week. I've been in the UK for a few days last week, learning to drown in helicopters, as I mentioned before. So I got my certificates for that. So I'm passed to work on oil rigs again, going filming there recently. So I've been on an edit week this week.
Nice. Do you enjoy those?
Edit weeks?
Yeah, kicking back, editing. I like the idea of them, and then when they happen, I hate them.
I really struggle to... I always find it really hard to get into a project on the edit, and then once I'm in it, it's great. But
nice.
I've not. Today's not been one of those days.
Oh no. Well, speaking of editing, our topic this evening is going to be post-production workflows, gear, kind of how we go about things. So, Jem, do we want to start with production before we get to post-production?
We want to start with what we're drinking.
What we're drinking? Oh my heavens! What show am I on?
This is Camera Flask. What is happening here? Come on.
So wow, I really dropped the ball on that one.
Oh my
Jem,
goodness!
What you drinking? Segment 1. What you're drinking?
Okay, well, if all goes well, we do have a special guest coming in a little while, running a little bit late, but in this special guest backpack, I sent the person to a local store. I have 3 options here. The first one here is a pale ale. Wow. Do you guys see it?
Yeah.
Okay,
very
good.
Small text.
It's called Maine Beer Company. It's called Another One, India Pale Ale. I told him I hated IPA, so I'm glad he got that. Another one called A Tiny Beautiful Something. Isn't that sweet? This is a pale ale.
Precious. And
then we also have in here Bury Tureau Saison, tart Saison ale aged in oak fodder. I don't know what the heck this guy's doing to me. And by the way, when I went into his backpack, for some reason, there's 2 bullets in here too.
Oh, nice.
So
should drink that.
Should I?
I like bullet.
All right. I'll drink bullet. So today,
pour it in the beer. Drink both.
I'm drinking. Yeah, it's all right. I'm good. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I could put that in the Sazerac. Okay. I'm done. I'm drinking. Who's next?
Drinking. Ben.
All right. So this week, it's another whiskey week, but because I've got quite a collection at the moment because it was my 40th in the summer. So a Czech friend of mine, he was telling me that there were 2 Czech single malts, which seemed unlikely. And he said he'd only ever tried one and it was absolutely foul. And he then presented me with the other one, which, you know, when you get a present that you're going to have to pretend you like, you know, oh yeah, that's great. That's what I was preparing to do. It's amazing.
Can you hold it up again and just really turn it more towards your computer?
So this is
golden. Now we can see it. Hold it there.
You see what that's called?
Oh yeah, gold cock.
No, yeah,
gold
cock. Oh no,
sorry,
you have to say it nonchalantly. You have to say gold cock.
Yeah, gold cock.
Gold cock.
A couple of gold cocks.
Yeah. Let me have a couple of gold cocks on the rocks.
So I'm going to pour that. It does need a little water because it's kind of cask strength. That's 50%.
Okay, good. All right. Get the water in there and let me see you have a drink. Come on.
All right.
Oh, there he is with his little pitcher. He's so dainty. Northern London. From the Lake District. Here he is. Cheers.
Cheers.
Let's go. In you go. All right, good. And now, Mr. Caleb, let's see what's going on.
So I've yet to get to...
Let me guess.
Oh.
Is it possible that you might have a beer? I'm just checking.
No, actually. Vodka today.
Ooh.
Oh, you're not going to be impressed.
Oh,
I'm just going to tell you. I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to be impressed. You guys know how this goes so far. So, my wife and I have been like going, trying to pay the house off. Like our goal is to get it done by the end of the year. So we're just like balls to the wall. So I've not been spending a lot on booze, but now that this is a business expense, that's going to change. So today I'm going to show you guys, my shameful daily driver, since I've been not spending a lot on bourbons and things, whiskeys. So we are doing vodka. Let's see. I'm using a Sony camera today instead of Panasonic, so I actually have autofocus.
A7 III, American vodka.
A6500.
Oh, A6. Wow.
Yay.
Hats off to you, bro hams.
Okay, so this is Sam's Club vodka.
Okay.
I know what you're thinking. You're thinking it's terrible, but it's 6 times distilled. So very easy to drink without anything else. Just some ice and some lemon or lime, and you're done.
Let me see you drink it. You got to start talking.
Cheers.
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 Very nice. So, by the way, let's just a little shout out. Caleb, you want to shout out to a couple of people who are here right now?
Yeah, absolutely. We have Rockentry.
Yeah.
We have part-time, very cute use of time there. Part-time. And they've been tearing it up. Alex, what's going on? He's also down there in the comments. And my 20s with the cheap vodka.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll get that fixed. We'll get that fixed next week.
Let's point out that when it comes to Camera Flask, we do this every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern. In most situations, it's going to be myself, Caleb, and Ben in all of the shows. Occasionally, we'll get a special guest, and each week we pick a theme. We call it a theme, subject matter. And then we geek out, and then we want you guys to get in on the conversation and ask questions and all that stuff.
And tell us what you're drinking.
Also. Who, me? I did.
No, not you did.
Oh, yeah, you guys are
in the chat.
Depends on who you are, but if you're drinking, Ben wants to know what you're drinking. There he is. He's very curious, and he lives in the Czech Republic, so he's in a safe zone. He can hear about anything that anybody's drinking anywhere.
Boom.
Right.
So while people are getting us that information, do we want to start with production before we get to post-production?
Yeah, I think so. I think it'll be. I mean, so our basic topic is what today, Caleb? I mean, what are we really
post-production / hard drive workflows? Okay,
good. And then let's also just throw out there, as we do every week on Camera Flask, that general overall production questions and comments are also welcome. So we have a theme to the show, but if you have a particular question about a camera, a light, audio, we will try to get to it. It's going to be a little bit of a shorter show today, I think, based on our schedules and what's going on. But we want to jump into this for the next 20 or 30 minutes and then also see our special guest if he can arrive, that flunky, and we'll see what happens. So you're going to take it away, right, Caleb?
Sure. So, well, you have some interesting, fun little toys there for production end. Yeah. Maybe I'll just run through just 30 seconds of what I usually do, and that's just most of my workflows SSDs or SD cards for the production end, and that's pretty simple. I just take the cards out, lock them immediately until they're pulled in. I use Final Cut, so I create camera archives and import into the library. So if something happens, I've got essentially a clone of the SSD or SD card. And then that's about it. Nothing too funky, but I'm just making silly YouTube videos over here. So
come on, you are not making silly.
There's no celebrities on camera, so I don't have to worry about having, you know, bulletproof on that end.
Yeah. Was that a reference to?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Just making sure. So, so let's just acknowledge some of the drinks. We've got somebody drinking coffee, hopefully with whiskey in it, but maybe not. We got a Sierra Nevada going on right now, an old standby, and bourbon is where it's at. And I think we've got some people hanging. Good. Okay. Yes, locking SD cards is a good idea. I'll do a little thing on my side. So, well, you've never, I know, yeah, okay, good. Okay, good. All right, so I'm going to go over just a couple of things. So we pull cards from cameras, and then generally what we do is we use ShotPut Pro or Hedge, and we basically pull that footage in so that we can do checksum verifications and push that to at least 2 drives at the same time. So we don't want to format cards in the field if we don't have to. It depends on the type of media that we're using. So sometimes if we're using CFast cards or, you know, expensive media, then there are times where we might have to reformat those cards. But ideally what we're doing is we're making 2 backups. And then a lot of the times in production for me, I'm also doing dual slot or double slot recording on the cameras that we're shooting on, because we are in such small to no crew situations. So as you said, Caleb, you know, pull those cards, hopefully with the same footage on both of those cards. Lock those cards if we can. Not all cards are lockable, but SD cards are. And then back that footage up to 2 separate drives. And then ideally, what we'll do is if there's at least 2 people on the project, hopefully each person will walk with a drive each, or drives, depending on how much footage was captured. And then, you know, in the field, we're not really that worried about speed, except for transfer speeds. So we might be backing up to, you know, things like these little C's or G-Tech drives. But as soon as we're thinking about, or I'm thinking about actually taking that drive and using it in post, we'll talk about this in a little bit in terms of why that might be advantageous when you are working from a laptop on the road. So that's what I've got for you, at least for initial stuff there. And then I guess we move over to Ben. And does anybody have any questions yet that they want to ask? Or is anybody, Caleb, got anything that we should address before we move over to, oh, wait a minute. Wannabe Films is drinking the tears of his enemies or her enemies. I don't know what that means, but there you go.
And then he says, "Okay, they're my tears."
Okay, well, at least we're being honest here and transparent. Okay, good. All right, so Caleb or Ben, who's up next?
Well, I guess it's for production, more or less exactly the same as Jem. So everything to 2 drives, avoiding reusing media on the same day if possible. Tends to be everyone back to hotel or base, and then a big copying session, again using software to checksum everything. So that's pretty much the same, normally per job. And again, a pair of drives, and I normally buy different brands, and I buy a set of drives that are specifically for that job, and they stay just for that. So not anything particularly fancy, just sort of 2.5, not particularly quick, but I normally buy 2 different brands just in case one batch has some kind of issue with it. I often format one as PC and one as Mac as well. I'm not entirely sure why I do that, but it just, I work on both systems. So it just, and both systems I have software which will allow me to read Mac systems and Windows systems. And then the only other thing, which was a tip from you, Jem, from, I can't even remember which workshop, or it was something we want. If we're working in a bigger team and we actually have someone to data wrangle for us, actually having a system of zones on their table for media. And this is one of those tips that just gets used every time, and everyone I work with, because that's brilliant. He's off. Which is using colored tape stuck to the desks. So if we've got a data wrangler on their table, we have a green square and a red square. and media goes into the red square. And when it is backed up, double backed up and safe, it goes into, yes, tape like Jem has.
All right, so now I'm gonna give credit to somebody else. So I learned this from Matt Porwall, who's now a feature-length documentary cinematographer. But when I first started hiring him as a young lad, he was an AC, and he would also data wrangle. And so what he would do is he would show up with spike tape, and he would bring it in different colors. Basically, red and green were the two colors that we're talking about, and set up the laptop right here.
Okay. Building's burning down.
Do I have to leave? Huh? Oh, it's apparently there's a notice up on the elevator. I'm going to mute my mic. You guys are going to talk, and when this goes away, then I'm going to tell you about that workflow, because this is just a horrific thing for people to listen to. Okay? I'll talk to you guys in a second, and I might not be here when this is over, but I'm just muting my mic.
Okay, cool. Okay? Roger.
Just flash behind him. Is that like?
Oh yeah, this place is burning down. It's okay. Nope, hold on, I'm muting.
All right, so Jem's gonna take a little break. Let's move on to post-production, okay? Yeah. And I think this is where it gets expensive real quick to do it right. Maybe I'll run over my workflow real quick. I don't know if the camera is on me or not.
It is on you right now.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna hop over and screen share my screen like so. Can you see my screen?
I can see your screen.
Excellent. So this is what I started with, and I think it's a great setup to begin with, if it'll even load. But it's this little RAID box. It's actually not RAID. It's just USB 3, which is plenty fast for 4K and 4K workflows. It's a 4-bay, 3.5 millimeter drive.
It's just a JBOD. It's not got
nothing special. $100, so you can buy a whole bunch of them if you need to. They also come in an 8-bay configuration, which I have 2 of for our like archive server setup. Then I fill those with populate those with Seagate drives, in particular the Iron Wolves, because I want this thing running.
Caleb, you're not full screen apparently. Can you switch us over?
Oh,
we're still on Jem.
We're still on Jem. I don't know if I can switch this over. Jem, can you hear me? Jem.
No, he's not got his cans on.
Change camera, please. He's shaking his head. Am I live, Jem? He's back. He's going back.
It's such a failure. I forgot to go back to you, Caleb.
Okay. Is it me now?
You're like, yeah, it's you. I see your desktop.
Oh, no.
Wait. Oh, my God.
We good?
Well, am I supposed to be seeing your desktop?
Yes. Do they see my desktop?
Yeah, I don't know if the building's burning down, but I'm gonna go to your desktop now, and let's make sure we circle back and we talk a little bit about the tape thing.
Absolutely, I'm gonna go real quick.
No, you don't have to go quick. I'm just, I'm in New York City. This is what happens. Okay, here we go. And I'm staying on Ben because it's more interesting to see him with his reaction, looking. Okay, go. We're back on your desktop. Go.
All right, here we go. No, it's good. It's all good, brother.
Sorry, kids.
No, it's good. So Mediasonic box, cheap, solid, fast. I populate those with Seagate. I like the Iron Wolf, especially the 7200 RPM. So they're fast enough, especially in RAID. You can get huge ones up to 12 terabyte now, I think. Whoops. Yeah, 12 terabyte. Those are great. And then I use soft RAID to create my RAIDs. A lot of people are a fan of hardware RAIDs. And back in the day, that was the way to go. But these days, it's getting so good to do, soft RAID workflows are amazing. And this software is incredible. It monitors each of the RAIDs. It'll let me know, hey, this one drive's getting a little weird. You should consider or at least have another one ready. So I love this software. And then to calculate RAIDs, you all should check out raid-calculator.com. And it's great. So you can set it, number of discs. We're going to do a 4-bay setup. let's say we do 8 terabytes each. Oops, not 8,000.
And then
8
hopefully you're going to
terabytes.
answer the question. Do you normally do RAID 5 or 10 or something other?
I do either RAID 5,
There you go, Larry.
6, or
Ooh,
10.
6. Oh, talk to me about 6.
So what's great about the site is it'll tell you all the pros and cons. So we got RAID 5 set up, good capacity, 24 terabytes, 3 times read speed, no write gain, and I have 1 drive failure. If I go to RAID 6, I'm going to lose. There we go. I'm going to lose some data, so I only have 16 terabytes total. I lost a little bit of read speed, no write gain, but I have 2 drives that can fail before everything goes south.
Hot diggity dang. Okay.
And then you go to RAID 10, and it's kind of a split of both. You get speed, lots of great speeds on, really good screaming reads. So if you only have 4 bays and you're going to be doing like Red Raw or something ridiculous, this could be a good option. You're going to get really, really fast setups. 2 write gain, which we're less interested in, but it's still obviously super nice. And then you're down to at least 1 drive failure, which is most likely 1, unless you move up to an 8 bay. And the more bays you have, the faster you go. So if we jump up to 8 bays at 4 terabytes,
let's see it.
Now we have 8x read, 4 write. Dang. And in this configuration, you're most likely looking at 2 drives. And so that, that bay we looked at, this is a 4 bay. You could get the 8 bay. I think it's like only $270, $80. It's huge, obviously. So anyway, that's what I use right now. I'm using this QNAP. 2 editors can connect to it via Thunderbolt 3. We've been using that, excuse me, for 3 days now, and it's been flawless. We can both work off of the same thing. It can automatically do backups and all kinds of crazy stuff. A little more setup time, a little expensive.
Will you report back into us in like a month or 2 and let us know how it's holding up?
Yeah. Whoa, Inception. I'm trying to kill my or stop sharing my screen.
Cameras. There we go. Okay, cool. That's great. So let's just quickly go into this thing so we circle back. It's a show over here. I apologize, everybody. So Matt Porwall used to be an AC data wrangler on our jobs. And what he would do is he'd buy green and red spike tape. Here's the laptop computer. On the left side, you create little frames on your desk or your workstation that are the size of the cards you're using, CFast or CFast cards or CF cards. SD cards are smaller, obviously. Whatever the media is that you guys are using. And so you pull the cards and you put the cards into the red frames on the left side of the computer that you're using for data wrangling. And then you ingest the footage, check some verification.
It's back.
Okay.
So Ben,
yeah,
what's your setup?
So mine's a little different because I'm using a PC.
Right.
So I deliberately chose a chassis that would let me put a RAID setup within the chassis. So I have a 6 drive setup within there, which is run at RAID 0, because all I'm interested in that is speed.
Right.
So RAID 0 is stressful in that if 1 drive goes, you lose everything. So there's 6 drives, which means that the data gets pulled off those at 6 times the speed of a single drive.
Right.
However, there is no redundancy whatsoever. 1 drive fails of those 6, everything is gone.
So you got to have really solid real-time or often backups.
So what I do for that is that the media, so I've bought these things for the shoot.
Sure.
There's 2 of those. The data is on those and stays on those. When I go into my edit, I pull the data off those into my RAID system, which is inbuilt into my PC. So that's a really quick drive. The data's still here, and then I'm backing up the project files, which I do as a cloud backup because they're obviously tiny, and they go onto these drives as well. And then in terms of so that's kind of the workflow, and as I'm getting things out, and then things go off to client, and then once that's signed off, then I clear that stuff off the RAID, and then I've got that space up for another one. And then it's what so that I'm all happy with. That all works great. What's tricky at the moment is that long-term storage.
Yep.
And what do you do with stuff for a long time? So I still, you know, and I haven't always worked like this, but now it's a pair of these per job. These get put onto the client's bill. A pair of these that's just written in. They need that. It's not negotiable. They need to have this. So that's fine. So those are, as we said, different brands, and it can be that those go back to client if they're keeping rushes, if that's been part of the agreement. If those are staying with me, that's fine, and we keep. And it's even with traveling with those, just going back to these things. So I'm normally flying back here from wherever I've shot, because I don't do a lot of production work in the Czech Republic, but all my posts done here. So these travel in different bags. So one of these is in my carry-on with the cameras and all the other valuable stuff, and the other one gets stuffed in socks and in shoes and in boxes and bubble wrap and all the rest of it, and gets put in another bag just in case.
Smart.
So yeah, so that's kind of it. So we use the RAID for in the machine, and then for a lot of the older stuff, and what I used to be doing was buying these things, which are obviously just 3.5-inch discs, which are cheap. You know, per gig, these are probably as cheap storage as you can get for long-term storage, and doing double, again, 2 drives every however many weeks. Obviously, these things fill up a lot faster these days. And then I have a drawer right down there that's just full of these things.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the way I've been doing it. But long-term now, I think, you know, that's going to be going back to these, and because I've got a much better workflow using those. And obviously for long-term storage, and then if it needs editing again, all the rushes can get pulled back into the drive.
Nice.
Okay.
No, that makes sense.
Hey guys.
Backup. Yep.
Guys, can we just stop for a second here?
Sure.
We have a special guest who's coming onto the show. Let's see what happens. He might be Matt.
You bastard.
There he is. He's so cheeky. Look at him.
Finger snap, finger snap, finger clap.
Wait, hold on. Hold on. I'm going to step out of frame. Wait, is it on? Here we go.
Can you guys hear me?
I can.
Hey, I can't hear them.
Probably just as well.
Finger clap, finger clap. He's here.
Dan.
Hey guys.
Yeah,
what's up?
buddy.
Yeah, right there.
Oh my goodness.
Finger clap.
He did. Oh yeah.
There it is. Okay.
It's on the record. Yes,
So for those who don't know, Dan is a beast.
One way to describe me.
And Jem should probably introduce.
Yeah,
this is Daniel Fakos. Dan is part of the crew. Actually, I don't know why Dan. If we could get Dan in every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, I don't know why Dan is not the 4th person who's on camera in Flash.
I would like to. I mean, I'm working a lot. Sorry, Jem, but you know, I'd like to.
Well, you know, we're just dicking around over here, Caleb, Ben, and I. So yeah, sure, okay,
We've
Mr.
got nothing better to do, but
Yeah, we got nothing better to do than to drink and talk about technology and geek out.
Lovely, and I will be there sometimes. What are you guys talking about? What are we talking about?
Post-production drives.
Are we feedback looping here? Because we got you on the speaker on the laptop now. Is everything okay?
Check 1 2.
Check 1 2.
It's good. It's good.
Okay. So wow. Cheers. Now he's got Bullet and he's doing his little pale ale. Okay. So here we go, kids. So can we get over and get back to Matt Porwall and do this thing? And then I need to talk a little bit about what Ben was talking about, because there's some important things to talk about in terms of who pays for drives on jobs. That's kind of important, and how that works out, right? And sort of viewpoints about at least the way I handle things related to that. And Ben, you can talk about it as well. Spike tape, green on the left, sorry, red on the left, green on the right. When you get cards and you ingest them, if for some reason you have to reformat them and use them in camera again, then what you want to do is you want to make sure that they're backed up to at least 2 drives, and that you've done checksum verification before you put them into the green frames on the right-hand side and they go back. Go ahead.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, actually, this guy right here, he actually does data wrangle. Look at him. He just looks like a data wrangler from Brooklyn. So let him talk about,
I know, he ingests a lot of media, that guy.
He's going
ingest a lot of media.
He's going into official data wrangling mode. Wait, do it.
This is
please.
how
Wait, hold on.
All data wranglers are up to the top. All right, that.
No, come on.
If you break my shirt, you have to buy me a new one.
Okay, you data wrangler. Now he's a professional data wrangler.
Okay.
Go ahead, talk about it.
I mean, usually what I do is I will like take Jem's green, yellow, like a step further, where I'll actually put like white gaff on different parts of my setup, and often I'll be running 2 MacBooks next to each other, just so I can do more offloads at a single time.
Double fisting data wrangling.
But I'll actually have notes written in Sharpie, like offloaded to A drive only, and then like an intermediate section that says like needs to be offloaded to B, or I actually just like leave myself very straightforward notes. So like that visually can be very beneficial. And then also on top, yet another thing, in addition to using checksum like a ShotPut Pro or a Silver Stack, I always create like an Excel spreadsheet where I take notes about cards and sizes and whether or not I've checked them for playback, and that Excel spreadsheet then usually makes it onto a master drive. So, so editorial can at least refer to it. But those are just some tips that I've picked up along the way, learned from many different data wranglers that came before me.
What is this?
I bought it for you.
This is the worst Saison I've ever had in my life.
I'm sorry, you can't try the beer
basically,
before you buy
if
it.
you could make a Saison taste like an IPA that was mixed with grapefruit juice. Yeah, you're drinking the pale ale. It's the only.
Well, I just want to try it.
Oh my God.
Anyways, so those were just my 2 cents. I know I'm coming in hot. I'm talking a lot.
Oh, this is delicious.
No, it's gold.
So, so who pays for drives? Clients pay for drives.
Client pays for drives always.
And generally, unless they're saying they want the source footage, which means more time in post-production to prep the source footage, also generally means that you're never going to get hired by the client again because they whatever. Then that's a whole other show. Usually what I'm doing is I'm line iteming at cost what the drives are going to be, and I'm putting it into the proposal and budget for the client. But those drives are dedicated to the client's footage. So it's not necessarily that I'm handing the drive over to the client, but if I've got a project and I need to have 2 drives because we're doing a day or 2, then that client is basically going to have those drives. Those are the drives that are put up on the shelf, again, generally in 2 locations if possible. And then if we're shooting for a week, we have to do the math and we have to figure out what format we're recording to, how many cameras we're recording to. And there's lots of calculators out there that help you figure that out. And then you also want to make sure that there's some headroom, because when you're in your production environment, you're ingesting the footage, but you're also doing tests and things like that. So you don't want to keep it too close to the wire.
Yeah. And I will say, depending on the scale of the production, how well you know the AC, if it's a bigger production. If I'm wrangling and I know the AC, and for whatever reason the cam op is like just letting it roll in between takes, or they're not being very good about, for example, starting a take on a slate. I work with editorial enough that I know if you can get the slate in and then roll camera. It's annoying for editorial if camera rolls for 30 seconds and then a slate comes in. So as a wrangler, if I know some people on set, I'll be kind of quietly vocal about like, hey, can you guys try to start on a slate? Or like as the AC, like, just make sure they're not rolling, excessively in between takes. So kind of simple stuff, but sometimes I do speak up as a wrangler, but again, quietly, I'll whisper it to the AC.
And then we have a question here, which is, what is a good DSLR that can edit out fire alarm noise real time? Actually,
I think that might be the most specific question I've ever heard.
Caleb is going to answer that question because he's the one who's gotten a whole. Do any of the new DSLR or mirrorless cameras have a fire alarm filter?
Only when shooting Blackmagic RAW. That firmware hasn't been updated.
Sorry.
We gotta wait for what's his face over at Blackmagic to do a live stream release live the new thing. Right, so
we're looking for sponsors,
streams.
Caleb. No, okay.
They will get like Lagavulin
16 and Ron Swanson.
Yes, sir.
You need to be on you.
No, I have no idea how it works. Can they only see now?
Yeah,
they can see.
They can see. They see everybody all the time.
Yep.
Okay, so
Okay, yeah, don't
you,
let him.
You explained to Dan. I want to talk about backups because I feel like that's where everything falls apart for most people's setups, right? You got your RAID, you got your whatever. What are you doing for backups? And we'll start by saying RAIDs are not backups; they're redundancy, which is awesome, but they're not a backup. So, what?
Just to clarify, we're talking about like a backup for your personal archive that you want it to live for years, as opposed to like backups on set.
We're talking about backups like your main edit RAID just blew up on your desk. Gotcha. What happened? What's next? So Ben, you want to quickly run down what you kind of talked about it.
Well, yeah, because I've still got 2 drives with all the footage on, and I've been backing up the project files as we've been going. So if the RAID that I'm working off crashes, I just need to rebuild the RAID and then just repopulate it again with all that stuff.
Yeah. So, yeah, someone recently said something that scared me a little bit. They're like, do you have a plan for, same thing for me. I've a couple backup drives that I rotate. So one will be hooked up for a week, 2 weeks, a month, preferably a shorter period of time. And then I'll disconnect that one, put that in a safe, preferably in another building, and then hook another one up that's identical, and just those cycle in and out. So if something happens, it's not the end of the world. And then cloud backups using Backblaze for $5 per computer per month. And it's unlimited. And it'll back up the machine and anything attached to it.
Unlimited storage.
Unlimited storage, yes. Really? And it's pretty fast too. So for our archive setup, it's like 48 terabytes, and it backs up everything attached to that machine.
$5 a month, 48 terabytes.
$5 a month.
That's amazing.
And it's amazing. It's like super easy to set up. Just make sure if you have Comcast, be careful, because they now are putting limits on bandwidth. So I switched from like Xfinity to Comcast Business because it was a terabyte a month, and we were like blowing through that.
Caleb, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Was this company started by the same people that started MoviePass?
Oh, zing.
I'm just telling you that card is no longer in my wallet. $5 a month.
Oh man!
I'm telling you right now that something's gonna break. What are you looking for, Dan?
I'm looking.
Oh my God, he has like a Kramer wallet over here.
I
we should actually cut this up in the show. Okay, we're done with that. Okay, go back to Caleb. We're gonna digress. It's Dan and I. If we were all in the same room, if we thought the first episode was bad, it's okay. Go, Caleb.
So anyway, Backblaze, it's great. If anything, they're dealing with so many hard drives that they quarterly, I believe, do a massive test. So they'll tell you the best drive for best like longevity per like brand and per capacity, because one drive that's 8 terabytes might be gold from Seagate, but they're 10 terabytes trash or something like that.
Yeah.
So they have like
their failure rates.
Yeah, so they're great. They have wonderful content, and they've been doing it for several years. But yeah, I was definitely a little wary at first, but they're killing it. And then RAIDs are not. And then the thing that someone mentioned recently that kind of like I was like, ugh, is if you have a RAID. And I was like, well, one drive is good enough, right? One drive redundancy is good enough. If you have backups, right? So I've got tons of backups, and what if one of the drives fail, you rebuild it, but what if another drive fails in the middle of your rebuilding? That's when it's like, oh snap. So that's an interesting argument for RAID 6, where you have those 2 drives, but that's extreme, I suppose. That's a rare occurrence, but something to think about.
It's kind of extreme though.
Yeah, I mean that the odds of that happening are pretty low.
But again, could be kind of high depending on the situation.
Yeah. I would say one thing that I personally struggle with is, in addition to a RAID, is that kind of finding the right drive that I want to move forward with. You know, I have probably 15 different varieties of drives across 4 different manufacturers. Pretty much the only kind of like consistency I've found is if I use something like a Voyager Q dock, and then I buy actual internal 3.5-inch drives. they might come from different manufacturers, but at least they're all the same form factor and they all take the same dock. And they make some nice like cases, almost like think like an old VHS cassette case.
Right.
So in that sense, there's some real uniformity across drives, and you can, get different sizes. They're going to continue making those type of drives for at least the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
So that's,
oh yeah.
In like dollar per terabyte, they are pretty competitive. Maybe not the cheapest, but they're definitely on the cheaper end. So that is something that I dabble with from time to time. But then I stray and I'm at B&H and it's like, G drive, 1 terabyte on sale, $60. Like,
yeah.
When I go to B&H and buy things, a $60 hard drive is the equivalent of like being at the checkout counter and seeing candy. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll just take one.
Yeah.
I'll just take 2.
Yeah, I try to
talk about, but Dan treats drives like relationships, and he actually no, I don't mean that.
Oh snap!
No, I don't mean it like that. It's he speed dates drives, don't you? He's every month he speed dates drives and he checks them out.
No,
That's why
I don't take any notes. I don't listen.
Exactly.
I'm talking about the relationship, not the drive.
No, I know you are. Oh, cheers. There we go. We've been here since 7:30 in the morning teaching constantly, and then it was a scramble to get the where did you go for a little while?
Oh my god, my phone died and I couldn't get a city bike, so I had to run a mile in street clothes just to get a subway to get back here. It was a mess.
First world problems.
Beautiful sunset.
First world problems.
Beautiful sunset. You haven't seen the sun today.
I know, I haven't seen it
or ever. Boom. Hasty joke.
Why don't you stay on the key side?
Yeah, I should.
Okay,
can we get like a double net right here for that forehead?
Oh, for God's sake. Actually, there is one. It's on the floor over there. Go get it. No, it's right there.
I see it. I'll get it.
Okay, we're going to get a double net. Hold on.
Hey, where's James?
Caleb, can you throw some questions out there while we get the double net?
There's a question there from Shimon Galilee. How long do you guys hang on to footage? Do you keep everything for current projects, clients, and delete the rest after a year? Or do you just keep everything?
I used to keep everything until I was having to get rid of it.
Wait a minute. You used to keep everything until you had to get rid of it. What does that mean?
Back when I was like freelance,
oh, okay.
I just would like every 4 years, 3 years, I would just spend like a ghastly amount on hard drives.
Yeah.
Because I never liked the whole like, oh, I got my little 2.5 inch here and I got my 3.5 inch Seagate plastic piece of crap that doesn't have a fan in it, so I know the hard drive is going to melt down, and these little bit, it always made me nuts. So I tried to get like a big honking box, and then just every, like, remember when 4 terabytes was like $500 or $1,000?
Yeah,
and now that's like nothing. So every once in a while I just move up to the next size, and that's why I love those 8 bays, because you can use it like a hard drive dock, or you can take all your, like, one of my backups is just a bunch of random junk drives, different speeds, different sizes. I got adapters for the little baby drives. I like took apart like Seagate glued together portable drives, like ripped out the guts, like just everything goes into that, and I turn it into one big old JBOD.
Wait, hold on. So to clarify, does that mean
click on your name on the right hand side, or my name?
So to clarify, does that mean that you have the original footage from a shoot that you did 5 years ago from some client who maybe hasn't called you in 3 years?
Not anymore, but back when I did freelance, I wouldn't delete it if I didn't have to.
I did.
Okay.
You never know. Like, I did have a gig.
Oh, sorry.
Good, Ben.
Yeah, no, I keep everything, because then I've sold. You get inquiries from stock wanting something that may be floating around, and it's worth it. And it's normally quite lucrative when that comes up, and it doesn't happen every day, but particularly for things like the offshore stuff that I do, so the oil and gas stuff and the that works, because that's all pretty lucrative stuff. They're not going to be able to get that from anyone else.
Yeah. I think that it really depends on like the type of stuff that you shoot. Like any sort of like more nondescript or landscape stuff, like absolutely you can resell. Someone like me, like I shoot primarily for small clients, and like I could never resell that to anybody, because like not necessarily does the client own it. I have ownership in it too, but I don't have releases from the models for those sort of things. So, and actually what I found is photographers often will keep everything they've ever shot. Like they have this, they hold on to it. But just probably 2 years ago, I started, the idea of going back to open a project file from 3 years ago, you're not sure if the media is going to relink. You're not sure, like, well, is it even going to look good because you have a better camera? Like that idea is like just, I got so fed up with that idea. So about 2 years ago, I started just deleting all the raw footage, and I keep just the edit. But that's just me.
Yeah,
because I'm never like, I'll keep it for a year, the raw footage, and beyond that, client they need an updated video at that point.
Right.
But
so that's kind of
that's why
there's also some monetization to be done also from them coming back to you going, that stuff we did, can we repurpose that? We need to do. And then again, you can better to get them to reshoot the whole thing anyway. But
right.
So exactly. I don't know.
I mean, definitely like 1 year might be on the quick side, delete something, but after 2 years, if they want to repurpose something that's 2 years old, like, I don't know. Of course you can hold on to that, but in the off chance it happens, but I don't know.
Yeah.
That's just me.
And I treat client footage as sacred. So unless I have permission in the contract to use that footage, then it never gets redistributed, and I don't use it as stock or anything that ever gets incorporated into any other project at all.
But I've had people who've seen an edit that was done for a client. It was another company, and they approached me, and I went back to my original client and say, I had this inquiry. What do you think? And then they could say not a chance, or they can say it's fine. And then
so
the option.
Yep. Caleb, I know we're only 45 minutes in, but we are in a studio space here in the city that unfortunately we have to we have to vacate soon.
Got it.
We have to kind of get out of here. We're going to have to break down some of this stuff, and basically, we have to be back here at 7:30 tomorrow morning.
Right on.
Ready to go for another workshop. So I wanted you to maybe take a look at the chat and see if there's some good questions that we could address, and then have you take us out on this one. And I think it's a subject that we can revisit and get into a little bit more, and hopefully get some more stuff. Is that cool with you guys for today?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah. Lots of reminiscing of, I remember cassette tapes, 10 megabytes, yada, yada, all that good stuff from Larry. Do you ever have agreements to maintain old footage? And that was, I was going to bring that up after Jem was talking, like, just do whatever is in the contract. You should have something in there. You shouldn't be expected to have it for a decade and hold it for them unless you charge them for that kind of stuff. And people are all over the place, but you should have something in there.
But that's a dangerous thing, that if you then have in the contract that you're going to keep it and that you're going to be the custodian of that, that's a big undertaking. So I never do that.
I never put that in. I never put that in my contract.
No, because like then we've been talking about having backups in different places, and sometimes it's practical, sometimes it's not. But that's a whole world of complication and legal trauma. So,
yeah. Or how you deliver it to them, and that you won't be held responsible for when that handoff happens. Right. And like, here's your drives.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I keep it, and if they come back going, I've got it, but there's absolutely nothing in any contract that states that I need to keep it.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that maybe some sort of more blanket statement in a contract would be like, producer is liable to keep a copy of the footage for 120 days? Nothing that's even opening a can of worms?
No, I don't think it's never in. No, I'm not talking about.
It's not going to get you the gig, so it's probably just not worth putting yourself in that position. But
no, I mean, I've never had a client ask me for that. I have had clients who have asked for the source footage, and that's a whole different thing. And you hopefully address that at the beginning of proposal and budget stage. But I'm not getting into that. We put line items for cost for drives. We archive that footage. We have our own internal responsibility for that. But that's not something that legally we're trying to mess with, because I mean, let's just be honest. You know, it's kind of, and you'll take us out, Caleb, but hard drives, no matter how we go about it, they are ticking time bombs. And it's not if they will fail, it is when they will fail. And we have to always remember that overall, right, guys?
Exactly. Yep. Just pretty much look at every drive and imagine it dying and what happens next. And don't skimp out. You're going to be so tempted to take the cheap route, but you got to spend the money and do it the right way.
If you're being paid for a job, you just imagine making that call to a client.
Yep.
That's always my motivation when I'm about buying drives.
Let's remember this. No matter what happens when it comes to production, every single dollar that's spent in pre-production and production winds up first on generally cards now of some format or another in the camera systems. And then that winds up on multiples of these things. It's all down to the media in terms of where everything sits dollars and cents wise. So it's our responsibility as content creators to make sure that we are able to make sure that those backups are there, and you know, that we're being responsible.
Because ultimately, you know, we might hand a copy of the drive to a client, but they are not experts when it comes to drives and these sort of things.
No,
so,
they're
like,
not.
Yeah,
but you are.
Yes, I am.
He is.
I am.
I think the Bart Johnson Productions suggestion is something we've all missed.
Oh, I just write ones and zeros on my walls and store them long term. There you go.
Can I say real quick, and this will be the last thing I say?
Because he never
the first DIT job I ever did, because you always have like the AO1, AO2. You have the tape that you keep. I like had the stack of tape after like the 4-day job of like, you know, A12 and like B9, and I kept those on my wall for like maybe 2 years. Yeah, I was proud of it. It was like the first like DIT job I ever did.
It was like
media management job. It was the first like real job in that role that I ever did.
Was that the job that we met?
No. Come on, we shot 12 cards that day.
And on that touching story that we'll always remember, I think we're gonna call it. Let Jem and Dan get out of there alive, hopefully, if they're not burnt to the ground. So for everyone in the chat, thank you guys so much for joining us every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be right here with a drink in hand. Gentlemen, it was a pleasure. Dan, so glad you can make it with your tiny little bottle.
Danny, you going to NAB next year?
Absolutely, I'll be there.
Are you finally going?
Yeah, Ben?
You going to be there?
Fine. I've missed one in like 6 years.
Unacceptable.
Guys, Lotus of Siam, Friday night.
For sure.
And then Maggiano's.
Yep, every year, man.
Like, why are you laughing so hard? What's going on?
You and like torturing the entire staff of that place to get your private little booth somewhere.
Asking questions.
Yeah.
At lunch today, Jim was like, "Oh, I don't ask a lot of questions at lunch."
Oh.
Yeah. That laugh answers it all.
Can we have a table on the strip, like literally, like on, like move the cars around us, set them cones up?
And I know.
I'm lying around.
Can we do these 10 substitutions?
Yeah. I know this is your menu, but can you just let me into the kitchen and literally let me pick out the ingredients?
We literally had a bouncer kick us out of Lotus of Siam last time because we were there for 3 hours.
Yeah.
I don't know how many triple singhas we had, but we had a good time.
Was Jim there?
What?
Was Jim there?
No.
No?
End of discussion. No, I don't know. Jim.
Belushi.
The time we went, he was on the wall and he was right there.
Oh, no. That's right. Yeah, because okay.
That was 2 years ago.
Let's break this down. Hold on.
Okay.
So at the original, now not open, but possibly open in the future, Lotus of Siam, original location, by some...
It's by a swingers club on a strip mall.
Okay, hold on. Now it's in a new location, but there is a table at the original Lotus of Siam, which is Jim Belushi's table. And one day when we were there on our Friday night before NAB, I said, that table there, which I've sat at before, is Jim Belushi's table. And we looked over and Jim Belushi was there. It was crazy sauce. It's true. It is true, right, Ben?
It is true.
And
it is true.
And we like
ourselves.
Nobody likes food more than I do. Fact. Truth. And we're digressing here. And I hope you guys.
But food's good.
Larry, we'll be there. You can run into us.
We're going to Mandu Bar right now. We're going to have Cloud beers, and we're going to have lots of pan-fried noodles. Wish you guys noodles and dumplings and all kinds of stuff.
I wish you guys noodles and dumplings too.
Dumplings and dongles. Will you guys have a good night?
Yes.
Ben,
You too.
always lovely.
Likewise.
Okay.
Time with you. And
Hey, Caleb.
Yeah.
Feel better.
Thank you, sir.
Next Wednesday at 6. And do we have a topic? Let's just ask. What's the topic?
What's
Caleb?
the topic? Me?
What's the topic?
Oh gosh. I have snot brain. I can't.
Ben, any ideas what we should talk about next week?
Best investments
yeah, that's a great one.
over the years.
That's a great one. Yeah.
I love that one. Okay,
That's
so
perfect.
Caleb, remind me of that in an email or a text or both, because right now I'm going to go and decompress.
Sounds great. Sounds like a plan.
You guys.
Larry, Bart, and everyone else, have a wonderful evening. Thanks for chilling with us.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Look after Dan. You know what he's like when he's drinking.
Yes.
Yeah, he's sloppy. He runs around. One more clap. Let's go. Hand clap.
Hand clap
Bring
it.
it out.
Take us out.